and welcome to a new video on my channel. Today, I present to you part 2 of the story, The Curse of Bloodlust. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, don't forget to share it with others. In this episode, we will dive deeper into the mythological world and uncover its secrets. If you want to embark on this thrilling journey with me into a hidden world lurking in the shadows of humanity, then get ready for an exciting adventure. But enough talk, let's pick up right where we left off.
They told you what was real, a world of steel and light and wheels. But every rule you thought was true was just a veil pulled over you. It's not all black, it's not all white, not just humans in the night. This world's a maze of layered skies, wilder than your waking lies. The streets you walk may seem the same, but some remember a different name. The streets you walk may seem the same, but some remember a different name. The air hums low with hidden laws, the pulse of magic without pause. Can you feel it? It's in the stone, in blood and breath, in flesh and bone. Magic's not a dream to chase, it's gravity in different place. Phenomena that twist the land, rules reshaped by unseen hands. Born with fire in your skin, or learn through will that burns within. Some are born with sight unseen, a seventh sense and realms between. It's not a gift you find or steal, it grows inside and learns to feel. Others train through books and time, through runes and glyphs and secret rhyme. But even then the truth won't yield, for magic guards the paths it's sealed. In whisper ruins and silent towns, the laws bend back and upside down. A tear in space, a door, a scar. You think you've traveled, but you are already there, already lost in phantom winds and silver thrones. Magic's not a fading flame, it was here before we gave it name. Phenomenon that walks the ground, where logic breaks without a sound. A second sense, a world beneath, a secret soul you barely breathe. It's not illusion, not pretend, it's future, past, and their end. The age is near when eyes will see what hides behind our memory. To knowledge it will break the mask, and revelation starts its task. So open wide your mind tonight, the stars will shake your inner sight. This world was never what it seemed, it's deeper than your wildest dreams. Born within our tongues to feel, magic is the final seal. Not a myth and not a trend, a constant truth that won't unbend. A breath of flame, a silent code, the magic sings, the truth is owed. It lingers close and won't be tamed. This world is vast and unashamed.
To answer your question, nearly every mythological creature you can think of exists, from shapeshifters to elves, werewolves, fairies, dragons, unicorns, dwarves, and many more. However, the mythological world is generally kept secret from the public. This secrecy is maintained by the global government of the magical underworld. The Arcanum serves as the ruling body of this hidden world. Under its authority, there are 3 major orders, each with distinct responsibilities. The first is the Arcane Order, which functions as both the legal system and law enforcement. The Obscura Order acts as an intelligence agency, while the Helios Order serves as the military force of the magical underworld. Anna delivered this explanation with a professional smile. What she didn't expect, however, was Rune's utterly relaxed reaction to this revelation. Instead of shock or disbelief, Rune merely rubbed her forehead and leaned against the wall. "And how do you know all of this?" Rune asked. Well, that's because my family has been among the initiated for over 500 years. That means we've been working within the mythological world for countless generations," Anna replied. As Rune processed this information, she took a mental step back. This world is far deeper than I expected, she thought. A mixture of awe and unease settled within her. The weight of these new revelations threatened to overwhelm her. Yet, amidst all these newfound emotions, one feeling remained clear and undeniable: her hunger for blood. It felt liberating. So much so that she had willingly accepted becoming a vampire to embrace it. Knowing herself, Rune was certain if someone powerful enough could free her from her curse, she would do anything for them. The thought made her smile. I really am not a good person, am I? The idea of serving someone stronger than herself, someone who could offer her something she deemed truly valuable, wasn't repulsive to her in the slightest. She realized, without shame, that she wouldn't hesitate to use her body if it meant achieving her goals. Had she ever had sex before? Or was she still a virgin? Rune genuinely couldn't remember. Not that it mattered to her in the slightest. Such societal concerns were meaningless. Realizing Anna was still waiting for an answer, Rune simply waved her off and sat down on a small bench, lost in thought. From her perspective, there were only advantages to her new existence. The sun no longer harmed her, and she would live for countless years. Her only real concern? Can I still eat normal food? Turning her attention to a random passerby, she casually pointed at him. Hey you! Can vampires eat human food? Yes or no? The brown-haired young man blinked in confusion before answering. Yeah? Why? Rune didn't bother responding. She simply waved her hand dismissively, as if swatting away an insect. A strange sense of indifference settled over her. Knowing she would live for centuries, maybe even millennia, made the fleeting presence of ordinary humans feel insignificant. But with such an unimaginable stretch of time ahead of her, one question weighed heavily on her mind. What am I supposed to do with all that time? A human life was overwhelming enough, but now the crushing weight of thousands of years loomed over her. Damn, my life has already changed so drastically. What kind of insane things will happen in 1,000 years? Even if I do absolutely nothing, I'll still live through a time period I can't even properly comprehend. Guess I'll just have to wait and see what happens. Rune let out a long sigh, the sheer magnitude of her future pressing down on her like an invisible force. Excuse me, miss. You look troubled. May I be of assistance? The voice belonged to a striking man with jet black hair and piercing blue eyes. He wore a tailored black suit, accented with golden embroidery along the edges. For a moment, Rune had the eerie sensation that she had seen him before, but just as quickly the feeling faded. Do I know you? She asked. Not anymore, my lady, but allow me to introduce myself. I am Michael. I once served as Count Dracula's butler, and now, since he has chosen you as his successor, I am yours. As Rune focused on him, she noticed something peculiar, a small, translucent orb of white and blue light hovering within his chest. It was disorienting. She could see both him and the real world at the same time. Without thinking, she asked, "What's your magic?" Michael chuckled, his tone carrying the refined charm of an old-world gentleman. Ice manipulation. But normally, one doesn't ask such things so directly, my lady. I thought so. My magic, the ability to copy the magic of others, is truly overpowered if it even allows me to see the magic of others, Rune thinks as she stands up. Well then, let's return to the villa, she says, and almost at the same moment, she wonders how she knows the way back to her villa and why she speaks about it so familiarly. What the hell is wrong with my head? Rune asks herself as she sees the memories of someone she has never met. The memories are blurry, like a long-forgotten dream, but they also lack emotion, almost like an old black and white film. Rune quickly recovers from her brief episode and straightens up again. Unwilling to explain the inner workings of her magic to anyone, she simply says she felt dizzy for a moment. The fact that her magic also copies the memories of those who possessed it before is something she wants to keep secret. For now, however, the focus is on examining her belongings and wealth. Rune leaves the hotel with her new butler and steps into a limousine. During the drive, it occurs to her that she has yet to name her own magic, something that, according to the memories she has, is actually a tradition. Rune cannot fully explain why she has much more detailed memories of Count Dracula compared to the other magical beings whose abilities she accidentally copied. What is on your mind, young miss? Michael asks. Nothing. just my magic. I seem to gain recognition when I drink blood. This also activated with Dracula, and now somehow I have fragmented memories of him, his friends, and his past. And I can understand your magic, Michael Lay, Rune says with a deliberately calm tone. For a moment, the old butler's eyes widen in surprise as he realizes that some of his former master's memories truly now reside within his new one. A small part of him hopes that his master's thoughts and emotions have also been passed on, yet deep down, he knows this is mere wishful thinking. No, I'm sorry. I don't believe anything else from Dracula remains in me. I only have his memories, and they seem very fragmented. Right now, I can only tell how long you worked for him and roughly where the places he frequently visited in recent years are, Rune states in her sharp, matter-of-fact tone. Thank you for the clarification. I do have another question for you, Michael says professionally, but his emotions are palpable to Rune. Go ahead, my dear, Rune replies casually and relaxed. She finds the situation surprising and overwhelming, but there is also something fascinating about it. This mythological world gives Rune the feeling of having entered an entirely different realm. Of course, this world is still the same as before, only far more complex. Just the thought of now interacting with so many different species is simultaneously impressive, frightening, confusing, and exciting. However, what makes it all so terrifying is that understanding humans was already difficult enough. Understanding the motivations of elves, dwarves, fairies, and whatever else exists will likely be even more complex. How do you feel about your transformation into a vampire? Michael asks cautiously. Good. I drink blood, and it even tastes good, and I can still stand in the sunlight.
That was honestly my biggest concern about becoming a vampire. As for humanity, I actually feel more human than I did before, Rune says honestly and casually. Then, another thought crosses her mind. Hey, Michael, what would happen if a vampire like me drank the blood of another vampire? Or if I drank the blood of werewolves or elves? I mean, just theoretically, she asks. That is an interesting question, Michael says, looking out the window. Each blood type has a different effect on vampires. Werewolf blood has a sexually stimulating effect on vampires. Dragon blood, or that of dragon-like beings, grants fire resistance. Only the blood of ordinary humans has no special effects on vampires. However, you should be careful when asking about the effects of vampire blood on other vampires, as it is a taboo topic and is considered akin to murder or cannibalism in human society, Michael states seriously. Rune absorbs this information and asks a few more questions. Before she knows it, she arrives at the villa that feels both unfamiliar and oddly familiar to her. As Rune steps out of the car, a wave of nostalgia washes over her for a place she has never seen before. It is strange, yet expected. With each passing second, her steps through the corridors of the old building become more assured. Every thought, every movement, every step aligns more with how Dracula once was. Rune feels the change, the shadow of a past life, like a dream, shaping her into something new. The fear and uncertainty fade, and she becomes what feels more natural. I am neither the lost soldier who couldn't control her cursed thirst for blood, nor am I Dracula, who longed for death. I am someone else. It seems I absorb memories when I drink blood, but I don't feel like they influence me. I could probably just ignore them, Rune thinks, all thanks to the magic Dracula passed on to her. If not for this magic, there would be many problems she is glad she doesn't have to deal with. Rune doesn't even want to imagine what it would be like to carry so many different memories and personalities within her. She finds it quite convenient that she only sees the memories as sources of information, without feeling any emotions attached to them. And so, the evening of April 2, 2015, arrives. Evening of April 2, 2015. Something has changed in Rune once again. The magic that protects her mind from all forms of mental influence now organizes her abilities on two different levels. One consists of her own creations infused with emotions, while the other includes those she has copied. The latter feel more like films or something similar. Thoughts in these copied abilities appear more like a commentator's voice or an off-screen narration. Okay, but this is actually a good change, Rune thinks as she sits in front of her diary. She continues writing, and to an outside observer, it would seem like a normal diary entry. But that is far from the truth. If someone possessed the right key to decipher her words, they would see what was truly written. Rune knows that Michael is aware she is working on something secret, yet he does not concern himself with it. He has assured her that there is no magic in this world capable of reading what she intends to write. There are spells that can reveal what she has done in the past, but none that can extract her thoughts from a previous moment in time. The past is absolute and unchangeable. Rune is relieved that nothing can read her thoughts. She does not yet understand everything, but she knows enough to grasp the rules of magic and use them to her advantage. The future cannot be seen. The past cannot be changed. Life cannot be created or resurrected from the dead. No magic can break these laws. As Rune continues writing down her thoughts, she is grateful for the time she has spent studying encryption. She records what she knows about the effects of blood on her and the precautions she must take if she wishes to consume werewolf blood. But what fascinates her most is the question of what she might experience if she were to drink vampire blood. I could likely ignore the risk of going insane from vampire blood, as the mental influence occurs through blood absorption. But the real question is whether my magic's resistance to mental influence also applies to drugs or other biological addictive substances, Rune ponders. This will be her first experiment. To her surprise, obtaining drugs under Count Dracula's influence is not difficult at all. The moment she requests them, a variety of substances is laid out before her. The servant presenting them remains professional, showing no reaction. These are all drugs and substances that have psychological effects on a vampire's biology, the maid states. Although she is curious as to why her young mistress wishes to take drugs, it is not her place to ask questions. She, like her mistress, is well aware that these substances will likely have no effect on Rune's mind. And yet, Rune takes them. When the effects should begin to manifest, she feels a sudden rush of energy surging down from her head, racing through her body. But just a moment later, the sensation is gone. It was so fleeting that she tries again. This time, however, the addictive factor is completely neutralized, disappearing almost instantly. Rune can feel the chemicals still affecting her body, but not her mind. She also quickly notices how her body is filtering the substances out. This combination of mental resistance and the rapid metabolism of a vampire makes her nearly immune to any human attempts to poison her. This experiment was truly a success. You may dispose of the rest, Rune says in her usual calculating tone. Now I can put my plans into action, so that I can live a beautiful life, Rune thinks as she rises from her chair. She pushes it back and lets her gaze wander across the richly decorated room for a moment. A sense of satisfaction washes over her as she takes in the expensive objects surrounding her. It is like the instinct of a crow drawn to collecting shiny things, it brings her joy. This urge to amass wealth and gather expensive items truly suits vampires. I can already feel how my plans for the future are changing. I know I will live for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, and the amount of money I'll need for such a life is enormous. No wonder most vampires, from what I know, are wealthy and influential figures, Rune muses as she steps out of her new office. That strange feeling washes over her again, the sensation of knowing things she has never seen before, when she spots a maid cleaning the windows. A memory surfaces, and it pains Rune that she cannot tell the girl what Dracula would have wanted to say. She shouldn't even know it. Rune knows that her brother is dead. And she wants to tell her, because the girl deserves to know the truth. But the questions that would follow, those would be much harder to answer. Even just admitting that Rune can copy someone's memories by drinking their blood, or by getting it into her body in any way, is far too dangerous. Dangerous for the girl. Dangerous for everyone. So Rune simply walks past her, keeping the weight of unspoken truths buried deep. Her thoughts drift to her new life. How strange it is, how quickly she has grown accustomed to it. Yet Rune knows this peace won't last. Whether in 10 years or 30, it doesn't matter. Sooner or later, the human world will discover the mythological one. And when that day comes, chaos will follow. It will be brutal. The weak will suffer. And Rune has no intention of being one of the weak. She will never let the world overwhelm her. As the first rays of the morning sun stretch across the New York skyline, Rune steps into the dining hall. There is no fatigue in her body, no need for sleep anymore. That, she thinks, is perhaps one of the greatest luxuries of her new existence. What a waste of time sleep had always been. Michael, Rune says as she takes her seat, I want to host a party this Friday night. In honor of my new status as Dracula's heir, I'd like to meet the vampire families of New York. Do you have any suggestions for a venue? Chapter 2. The dawn of a new era. Before Michael can respond, a violent explosion shatters the morning calm. The sound echoes across the skyline like a scream torn from the heavens. Rune blinks and turns her head sharply, catching a fleeting shadow that darts across the sky in the distance. What was that? She wonders, but finds no immediate answer. With practiced calm, she shifts her attention back to the party planning. Whatever that disturbance was, it wasn't her concern right now. In truth, the politics of the mythological underworld aren't so different from those of humanity. A little more archaic, perhaps, but not beyond her grasp. Rune knows that her position as Dracula's heir is enough to draw the two most prominent vampire families to the event. And she suspects there are deeper motivations, too. Some of them will want to ingratiate themselves with her, despite her current inexperience. Rune isn't entirely sure how she compares in power to the true-blooded vampires or the noble-born ones, but she has reasons to believe that none of them would act recklessly. Vampires don't make impulsive moves. Hey, Michael, Rune says suddenly, breaking the silence as they finalize the arrangements. Why am I so certain that none of these vampires will do anything reckless at the party? I mean, I know it's something I remember from Dracula's mind, but still, why are vampires like that? Michael leans casually against a marble column in the grand ballroom. The soft light of wall-mounted torches bathes the space in a warm, medieval glow. Because we vampires never start a fight we might lose, he replies calmly. And we always plan for the future. You should never fully trust anyone who walks through those doors. Everyone has their own agenda. Rune nods slowly, her eyes wandering across the ornately decorated room. It really does look like something straight out of the Middle Ages. I wasn't planning to trust anyone anyway, but I have to ask, why was this party organized so quickly? This place is surprisingly well prepared. That's because, my lady, says a new voice from somewhere nearby, this venue was built for this exact purpose. We host parties here every week for mythological beings. Rune looks around, puzzled. Down here, the voice snaps irritably. She lowers her gaze, and blinks in surprise. A small green figure stands at her feet, arms crossed and looking unimpressed. What are you supposed to be? Rune asks, genuinely curious. I'm a goblin, the creature replies with a sigh. Rune's mind flashes to anime depictions of goblins, and the little being's scowl deepens. He clearly knows what she's thinking, and he's not pleased about it. Why do humans always imagine us as these grotesque, ugly beasts? He grumbles. Rune can't help but laugh. Sorry, it's just, the contrast is hilarious. You look like a tiny green human. Yeah, whatever, the goblin mutters, brushing off the insult. He then proceeds to explain, with visible pride, how this venue regularly hosts events for a wide variety of supernatural clients. He beams with satisfaction as he describes their weekly parties, clearly proud of the role he plays in making them happen. Rune listened carefully to the goblin, and it didn't take her long to get a surprising impression. Goblins, by nature, seem to be business people. Male or female, it didn't matter. They were sharp, focused, and practical. But more than that, what struck Rune the most was their lack of prejudice. There was no discrimination against women or other species, at least not that she could see. Even as the party filled with vampires of varying backgrounds, there was no sign of racism or division. The goblins moved gracefully through the crowd, offering drinks and food, while the vampires conversed openly among themselves. Rune made an effort to blend in, stepping into her role as host, mingling with guests. But soon she realized something: socializing drained her. Every smile, every forced conversation chipped away at her energy. After what felt like an eternity, she excused herself quietly and stepped away, only to discover, when she glanced at a clock, that barely a few minutes had passed. Still, it hadn't been a waste. Quite the opposite. Rune had absorbed a flood of information, more varied and useful than she dared hope. She now understood that this world was far more layered than she thought. It wasn't just vampires. There were entire races, factions, and hidden hierarchies. Even among the vampires themselves, there were subdivisions. One group stood out: the Blood Crown, a radical vampire faction that made Rune think uncomfortably of fascists. Their rhetoric, their posture, their ideology, it reeked of superiority and hatred. They were the extremists, the outcasts even among vampires. Rune found some relief in that. It was reassuring, in a twisted way, to know that not everyone liked them, especially not the younger generation of half-vampires, many of whom rejected the group's elitist views. Rune made a mental note to avoid involving the Blood Crown in any of her future plans unless absolutely necessary. The last thing she needed was to step on the wrong toes. She also learned something else, something deeply fascinating, about rune magic and rituals. Apparently, every living creature in this world possessed magic in some form, though not everyone could wield it effectively. But with the right sequence of runes, one could theoretically achieve almost anything. Runes were like the programming language of reality, on their own, meaningless, inert. But when charged with magical energy, which everything in existence possessed, they became powerful tools. The possibilities were almost limitless, provided one had enough runes and enough power to activate them. What intrigued Rune most was the revelation that rituals were essentially the same as runes, just expressed through movements and spoken words. Runes were the written form of rituals, and that idea made her head spin. "My head is swimming," Rune muttered as she stepped out onto the balcony, away from the noise and warmth of the party. The cool night air kissed her skin, and she breathed it in deeply. As a vampire, she barely needed sleep anymore, but rest, quiet moments like this, was still something her soul craved. Then, footsteps. She frowned, annoyed. "I'd really like to be alone right now," she said sharply. "And here I thought you'd changed, Rune," came a familiar voice from behind. Her blood ran cold. Her eyes widened in disbelief. That voice, it couldn't be. It was a cruel joke, surely, some twisted prank of the universe. Because what she heard wasn't just familiar. It was impossible. "I don't know who you are," Rune said tensely, slowly turning around, "but this isn't funny." The sight before her stopped her breath. Her mind screamed in confusion. The man standing there looked just like Gaius, only, his hair was a deep ocean blue, and his eyes glowed crimson red. It made no sense. How could he look so much like Gaius? "Gaius, how is this possible? You're not him, are you?" she asked, her voice faltering. "Oh, but I am," the man said with a small smile. "We had our first fight in 6th grade. Our first kiss was in the boys' bathroom during lunch break. You and I got detention for being late to art class. It's been 5 years since we last saw each other, and a lot has changed, hasn't it? You've become Dracula's heir, and me, well, that's complicated." Rune stared at him in disbelief. "But you drowned, I saw it. You died in that lake." "Yeah, well, it's a long story," Gaius said, his tone more serious now. "I didn't drown. I'm a water mage, one of the Arcanum, as it turns out. And yes, I'm still human. Only recently did I learn that my family descends from one of the old magical bloodlines. According to my father, our lineage traces all the way back to Babylon." Rune blinked, her mind reeling. Babylon. What did he mean? Seeing her confusion, Gaius tilted his head. What part didn't you understand? She pulled herself together and demanded, why didn't you ever tell me any of this? He raised his hands slightly in defense. I didn't know any of this until a few years ago, and by the time I did, I couldn't find you anymore. She stepped forward, fury bubbling up inside her. She'd mourned him, grieved for years, and now here he was. She tried to slap him, but he dodged. Easy, he said, backing up. You've been drinking, and let's be real, you're way stronger than I am now. If you hit me, I'm toast. I'm not drunk, Rune growled. You just picked the worst possible time to reappear. Gaius, let me hit you. She lunged at him again, fangs bared, frustration bleeding into fury. But before their scuffle could escalate, a new voice interrupted them. Miss, you cannot assault the young master of the Godfield family. He is our guest. It was Michael, appearing without warning, calm as ever. The stars shimmered above them, like diamonds sprinkled across a velvet sky. Their cold light fell gently over the surreal scene. Rune frozen mid-strike, Gaius wide-eyed, and Michael standing like a guardian between worlds. Gaius blinked, then chuckled. It's all right, mister. We've known each other a long time. She's always been like this. Her idea of conflict resolution has always involved fists. I just need to dodge until she burns it out. He casually raised his hand and summoned a shimmering water shield in midair. It rippled like liquid, but when Rune struck it, she found it harder than stone. She pushed against it, clawed, struck again, yet it held fast. Gaius didn't falter. He wasn't letting her through. Not yet. Now just let me hit you once, you little brat, Rune said as she continued to strike. But she quickly realized he was right. She couldn't afford to hit him with the full strength of a vampire, not if she wanted to avoid turning him into a puddle on the balcony wall. Calming down, she sat down on the railing of the balcony. The 5-meter drop didn't bother her as she looked away, gazing up into the night sky. She wondered how it had come to be that her only school friend had become a mage. After a long, quiet pause, Gaius lowered his shield and joined her at the railing's edge. You know, I've been worried about you too, Rune. I thought you'd been dead for a long time, he said, his voice heavy with defeat. Why the hell would you think that? Rune asked, raising her eyebrows in confusion. I used my influence to check with the military, but you just vanished after you got paid for your service. After that, all your traces simply disappeared, Gaius said, concern etched into his face. Huh, what do you mean, my traces disappeared? Rune replied, not understanding what he was getting at. You vanished from a nightclub, and I heard rumors that you had late-stage blood cancer. So I figured you just died somewhere, for any number of reasons, Gaius explained, clearly puzzled. So you thought I was dead just because you couldn't find any trace of me. That's unfortunate, but how did all this even happen? Rune asked, confused, her memories of those 2 months a hazy blur. Those were the months she had spent partying as much as her strength allowed, and now, she couldn't even say which city she had been in. As their conversation unfolded, it became clear how much they had missed each other. Both had lived through experiences that had changed and shaped them. Hey, have you heard about Drake and his crew? They robbed a museum to reclaim their old artifacts. It was hilarious. The archaeologists dig through the dirt only to find things the vampires lost long ago, Gaius said, amused. No, I haven't heard that. Honestly, it still overwhelms me that I was just thrown into a new world like this. Not that I regret it, but everything is just so different. My bloodlust is gone, but I still want to drink blood, if you know what I mean, Rune said quietly. I do know what you mean. You were wild back then. Honestly, I get the feeling you seem more human now than before, Gaius said, casually and sincerely. He knew he could be completely honest with Rune. So they started chatting more freely, happy to have found each other again. At first, their conversation revolved around their lives, but then it shifted to what might happen with magic in the underworld once the world learns of magic's existence. I think it's only a matter of time, but I doubt there'll be any major wars, since so many influential people are secretly vampires. I was genuinely surprised when I learned that the leader of the vampire faction called the Centralists is the Pope. It's still hard to believe that an old vampire uses illusions to make it look like there are new popes, when in fact, he just keeps getting re-elected, Rune said. She added, with a small smile, that she was glad the myths about vampires were wrong. No garlic and no fear of sunlight, silver, crosses, or holy places. That's honestly pretty cool, Rune concluded. I'm glad you're handling it so well. But I'm worried. The magical underworld, or the mythological world, if you will be exposed sooner or later. What will you do when it comes out that you possess magic and aren't human? You know how people are. I don't even need to say how they'll react. People already hate each other over different skin colors, Gaius said, his voice filled with concern. Relax. I'm not stupid. If something gets dangerous, I run away. I don't get into fights I can't survive. You don't have to worry, because if there's one thing I'll always protect, it's my own life. I don't just fight dirty. I don't care about honor either, Rune replied firmly. You really are the same dishonorable street fighter one once knew, Gaius said with a chuckle. What do you mean by that? Are you trying to badmouth me? That's just realism. If I can't win, why keep fighting? Rune said, looking up at the distant stars. The voices of vampires drifted toward them, blending with the far-off sounds of the city and nightlife, creating a soft background hum. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. You're one of the most straightforward and kindest people, even though you're also one of the most dangerous I've ever known. Maybe that's why I fell in love with you, Gaius said, a note of melancholy in his voice. What? You fell in love with me? Why didn't you ever say anything? Rune asked, surprised. I tried, you idiot. But I just couldn't get through that thick skull of yours, Gaius said with a grin. Silence settled between them as they stood there. Then they watched the sun slowly rise, and the last partygoers said their goodbyes to their hostess, Rune. Gradually, everything grew quiet. As the silence deepened, their conversation continued. You're right, I was a stubborn idiot, Rune admitted as she watched cars drive away. Yeah, you were. Your usual problem-solving method was to hit whatever bothered you until it went away, Gaius said casually. Rune just rolled her eyes and asked if she should walk him home, or if he wasn't afraid of the dark anymore now that he was a water mage. Rune smiled as she saw his expression and walked away without looking back. She was confident they would find a way to talk again. But for now, Rune had plenty to do for her near art, the plans she needed to refine. She had just learned how complex the world truly was. It wasn't only vampire society she had to consider in her plans, but also the werewolf clans, the mage houses of the human magical world, and the elven cultures living in forests and nature territories. Then there were the sea folk and the sky people. The earth folk, dwarves and others, were also groups she needed to keep an eye on. But for now, her first target would be someone who worked for the Bloody Rose, responsible for blood preservation. Ideally, she wanted to learn to siphon blood magic like powerful mages do, but she knew that would be difficult. So, logically, she'd start by copying the magic of weaker mages, then move on to stronger ones. With that, she planned her first steps to prepare for the future. Rune was exhausted, even as a full vampire, after almost 2 days without rest. She sank back into her chair and fell asleep, or at least something resembling sleep. Even in rest, it would prove impossible for a human to sneak up on her. She was awakened by the sound of birds, gently rousing her from light sleep. Suddenly, a good idea struck her as she saw a human woman walking past the office. Rune reached for the bell beside her chair and rang it. A maid entered the room, appearing from nowhere, an indication of how well she controlled her magic. You're the head maid, aren't you? What kind of magic do you have? And what race do you belong to exactly? Rune asked, curious because she couldn't tell the maid's race. I'm an elf. My magic is shadow manipulation. I can cloak my presence and shape objects out of shadow as hard as wood. It's very weak magic, the maid replied. Thanks. Now there's one more thing I want to do today, this afternoon or evening. I want to visit the Bloody Rose and pick up some blood packs, Rune said, knowing how strange that sounded. But as the heir to Dracula's wealth and status, it wasn't difficult for her to get whatever she wanted. With enough influence and money, no one in the magical world asked questions. She wasn't even questioned about why she wanted such a strange thing, and that was fine with her. There were several reasons for this. The first was to acquire different types of magic, and the second was to test whether there were any time limits on her copying ability. Rune suspected there were no temporal restrictions, but that was still unclear. Miss, a letter has arrived from the International Academy of Magic, said Victor, her butler, handing her a letter. Wait, there are magical schools and academies, why haven't I thought about that before? Rune wondered aloud. Yes, there are magic academies. Teaching the individual types of magic is somewhat difficult because they're so diverse, but not impossible, and there are other magical disciplines you can learn besides innate magic, Victor explained, shaking Rune's worldview once again. That was kind of to be expected, that I still didn't know certain things. But what is this magic academy exactly? Is attendance mandatory? Rune asked, unfolding the letter. To her surprise, the letter seemed to be folded more times than was logically possible. Even though she was getting used to the magical world, it was something that excited her deeply. Magic was far more diverse than just innate magic and the strange phenomena that affected the environment in various places. As she read the letter, she realized the complexity of her own situation. Since she had been human before, knowing little to nothing about magic, it was hard to place her properly. A vampire of 22 years like her would count only as a child just starting school. She learned there were no magical laws forcing her to attend school since legally she now held the full power and authority of Count Dracula. That meant she was legally treated like Dracula himself, but as a young vampire, she would also be treated like one. Ultimately, it was her choice whether to attend the International Academy of Magical Arts, also known as Intermagics. As she continued reading, it became clear that most of the letter covered school rules. The complexity was due to elves, dwarves, humans, and vampires all attending the same school. It wasn't just different daily cycles, but also the cultures clashing in one magical place. In essence, everything was allowed as long as it harmed no one. A quick glance over the rules made it clear that racism, prejudice, and bullying of any kind were strongly discouraged, with teachers and students alike being closely monitored.
Chapter 2, Revelation. Time passed, and soon noon approached as a sleek black car pulled up to the front of a seemingly ordinary warehouse, the property of the infamous Bloody Rose. Behind the wheel sat Rune's loyal butler, Michael, whose expression remained calm and unreadable, as always. Rune, seated in the back, scrolled idly through her phone, searching for anything interesting among the flood of digital noise. Suddenly, a sharp chill ran down her spine, a creeping sense of unease. Then, as though summoned by instinct, her gaze froze on a grainy, flickering image, a blurry photo of what appeared to be a vampire caught in the darkness of night. Shit, it's begun, she thought grimly, just as the photo was mysteriously deleted seconds later. The atmosphere had changed. Rune could feel it. Humans are getting more agitated and curious about magic. I need to stay informed, she thought, as she channeled a whisper of paranormal energy into her phone, focusing her intent to connect to the hidden web, the magical internet, invisible to normal humans. Arcane runes briefly flashed across her screen like fleeting phantoms before fading away, replaced by a more familiar interface. Rune didn't waste time. Within moments, she began scanning through magical news and updates. However, laziness quickly overtook her curiosity, and within 5 minutes, she gave up, opting to ask the digital assistant, a magical equivalent of ChatGPT. How far are humans in uncovering the truth about the mythological world? She asked it bluntly. The answer she received seemed comforting at first glance. but Rune read between the lines. Something was off. There was unrest beneath the surface, anxiety rippling through the magical societies like wind before a storm. She clicked on a video, and her suspicions were confirmed. It featured the President of the United States, standing stiffly behind a podium. He looked pale, sweaty, and clearly rattled. His bodyguards, unmistakably non-human, flanked him with eerie stillness, their eyes devoid of emotion. The message was clear. He wasn't there by choice. The United States has no hostile intentions toward the mythological world, President Donald Trump declared, voice trembling with fear. Rune raised an eyebrow. The situation was worse than she thought. The fact that the magical government could extract the president in the dead of night, force a public address, and use supernatural enforcers to do so, it meant their influence was far greater than anticipated. Still, she reminded herself, this was America. She wasn't there. But if the magical government in the US was acting so aggressively, what about Germany? Hey, Michael, Rune asked, finally looking up from her phone as the car pulled to a gentle stop. What do you think the situation is like here in Germany when it comes to magic? Michael's reply came without hesitation, his tone firm but calm. There's nothing for us to be concerned about, Miss Rune. You and I are both full-blooded vampires. No ordinary human poses a threat to us. I know that, she admitted, stepping out of the car into the sunlight-dappled street. But still, I can't shake this uneasy feeling. I may be hard to kill, but if chaos breaks out, it could spiral fast. They made their way toward the building through narrow alleys lined with ivy. The warehouse looked unremarkable. White walls, clean lines, and gentle lighting. Nothing about it screamed magic, though the heavy security systems and discreet surveillance cameras hinted at something more beneath the surface. I understand your worry, Miss Rune, Michael said, walking just behind her. But as of now, the situation in Germany remains relatively calm. Most people dismiss anything magical as fake news. That may change in the coming months, but by then, you'll already be within the protective walls of one of the most secure magical realms, the International Academy of Magical Arts. As Rune entered the building, she felt her heart rate slow. Something about this place called to her. Without a word, she was led by a slender elven woman to a back room where the blood reserves were stored. But they weren't kept in bags. No. Each dose was preserved within crystal prisms, heavy in the hand and stunning to behold, glowing faintly with inner light. She paused before them, her gaze distant. Her surroundings faded away. In that moment, Rune felt something profound. This was where she belonged. She closed her eyes just for a moment. When she opened them again, her pupils glowed faintly with magical energy. I'll take the ones that feel right to me, she declared, not asking for permission, but issuing a decree, one that could not be questioned. Of course, Rune von Silverstar, the elf replied with a respectful nod. She moved through the room, selecting crystals seemingly at random, growing visibly happier with each one she picked. But Michael, watching from the side, noticed something odd. She wasn't selecting based on quantity or necessity. She wasn't gathering enough to last a year. She wasn't even trying to. Instead, it was as if she were chasing a scent, guided by some internal sense. No one questioned her. She paid in full and left with her chosen blood. But Michael, who had served her long enough to sense subtle changes, was uneasy. On the drive home, he watched through the rearview mirror as Rune greedily drank the blood. Not delicately, not for taste. She forced it down more and more, beyond what any vampire should safely consume. She drank until her body couldn't take more. Something about her was changing. Wake me when we get home, Rune murmured, before collapsing into the seat, her body finally giving out. Michael was about to respond, but she had already slipped into unconsciousness. Then, something strange happened. Her skin began to glow faint red, as though embers burned beneath her flesh. Sparks, tiny and crimson, danced around her sleeping form. Wisps of deep, dark red light floated lazily upwards, and the air itself pulsed with an otherworldly force. The magic radiating from her body wasn't just strange, it was wrong. What the hell is this? Michael thought, but he said nothing aloud. It was clear Rune didn't want anyone to see her like this.
They told you what was real, a world of steel and light and wheels. But every rule you thought was true was just a veil pulled over you. It's not all black, it's not all white, not just humans in the night. This world's a maze of layered skies, wilder than your waking lies. The streets you walk may seem the same, but some remember a different name. The streets you walk may seem the same, but some remember a different name. The air hums low with hidden laws, the pulse of magic without pause. Can you feel it? It's in the stone, in blood and breath, in flesh and bone. Magic's not a dream to chase, it's gravity in different place. Phenomena that twist the land, rules reshaped by unseen hands. Born with fire in your skin, or learn through will that burns within. Some are born with sight unseen, a seventh sense in realms between. It's not a gift you find or steal, it grows inside and learns to feel. Others train through books and time, through runes and glyphs and secret rhyme. But even then the truth won't yield, for magic guards the paths it's sealed. In whisper ruins and silent towns, the laws bend back and upside down. A tear in space, a door, a scar. You think you've traveled, but you are already there, already lost in phantom winds and silver thrones. Magic's not a fading flame, it was here before we gave it name. Phenomenon that walks the ground, where logic breaks without a sound. A second sense, a world beneath, a secret soul you barely breathe. It's not illusion, not pretend, it's future, past, and bitter end. The age is near when eyes will see what hides behind our memory. To knowledge you will break the mask, and revelation starts its task. So open wide your mind tonight, the stars will shake your inner sight. This world was never what it seemed, it's deeper than your wildest dreams. Born with it all taught to feel, magic is the final seal. Not a myth and not a trend, a constant truth that won't unbend.
That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to recommend my channel on your homepage. If you want to check out the next video, head over to the playlist, the link is on the right side of the screen. On the left, you'll find the link to the newest video I've uploaded. And in the top center of the screen, you can now see the link to my YouTube channel. If you want to hear more from the series The Curse of Bloodlust, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to drop a comment to let me know what you think.